your spirit. Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the GTHub podcast, and we have a packed show for you today with the discussion of the Bahrain Grand Prix, the IndyCar race from what is now known as ISM Raceway, and also many discussions of the Blancpain GT race from Zolder, in which Penza will be very happy. And some testing news from Paul Ricard on the WC and the ELMS. Well, okay, we'll start with the Blancpain, or not the Blancpain.
Formula One.
Yes, thank you. My mind scattered there for a second. The Bahrain Grand Prix, or actually, to give it its official name, the Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix there, in which it was actually kind of an interesting race, because I was expecting it to be boring, but apparently Bahrain is not boring at any time since they turned the lights on.
Yeah, I mean, then again, I think with Melbourne, we weren't really going to get much in the way of overtaking anyway, because it's a pretty narrow circuit and there's not many real overtaking opportunities. I mean, turn one, for example, you would think, oh yeah, that's going to be a good spot for overtaking, but actually in these ultra high downforce cars, it is actually a pretty quick turn, and I think in the last 2 years we've had something like 7 overtakes in both races put together at Melbourne. So yeah, and I think Bahrain, the layout is more conducive to overtaking, partially because it's a permanent circuit, but also because it does have quite a few long straights leading into tight corners. So I think we were kind of expecting to get a better race than we did in Melbourne, but yeah, it was actually a pretty good race from what I saw of it.
Well, Melbourne's always it's not a terrible track. It's just an outlier for when they start there every season, that everyone goes, oh, this is going to be the pace of the cars, and you kind of sit there going, this is not indicative of what a real F1 track is. So really, you should just kind of throw that result away. It's just kind of not look at it at all. It counts at the end, but it won't tell you much.
Yeah, and I just prefer Australia being last race of the season at Adelaide.
Well, actually, I would prefer the last race of the season being in Brazil, because that's where it should end every year. But yeah, Brazil has its own issues, but
yeah,
I'm not going to talk about that because we know what they are. Anyway, diving back into the Grand Prix, we had Sebastian Vettel starting on pole with the Scuderia Ferrari, and it was second was a Mercedes, I think.
It was, if it was a Mercedes, it would have been Bottas, because Hamilton had a 5-place grid penalty for a gearbox change, I believe.
Yes, he had a gearbox change on his Mercedes, which, by the way, doesn't make sense because you can only use 3 gearboxes this season.
I think so. I mean, these
three gearboxes, 3 MGUs, and 3
it's 4 this year for engine parts.
Is it? Because I thought they were talking about.
I'm just guessing.
Toro Rosso being in trouble already. They changed both of their MGUs.
Yes, and it's annoying for me because I can still remember the days of really draconian engine restrictions back in the mid-2000s, where an engine had to last a whole race weekend.
Oh, I love this. I'm loving the chat here. They're being very intelligent compared to us too. Gearboxes are 6 races, and it's 3 ICE components, internal combustions, MGUKs and MGUHs, and 2 turbos and
2 for the
I don't know.
control electronics.
Thank you. I was gonna say, what is CE? But yeah, thank you for that one.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if Vettel had to change his put new controlled electronics in his car.
From the weekend, they said it
Someone-
was, they changed them out, but it's not broken. So they've actually taken it out of the race pool, but they're putting them in for the next 3 weeks, I think they said, in Friday practices to see if it's running. And if it is, then they'll put it back on the car for the entire weekend.
Yeah, because, well, there's actually a race this weekend as well, but more on that later.
Oh, yes. More on that after we preview the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yes.
We're finished talking about it. But yeah,
And-
going to qualifying, it was the Ferraris that shined. Surprisingly, Kimi Räikkönen having continuing his fine form from Australia again.
Yeah.
Outshining Vettel when it comes to putting fast laps together.
Yeah, Raikkonen's been pretty damn quick this season, I have to say. I mean, people thought that maybe should he be replaced with Leclerc? Shouldn't he be replaced with Leclerc or Grosjean or someone like that? But what Leclerc needs really is a good 2 years or so driving for a team like Sauber to get accustomed to F1 and get used to it. Whereas Grosjean would be more of a mid-term solution as such, I think, in terms of replacing Raikkonen. But the form Kimi's in at the moment, he's doing pretty damn well for himself, I must say. Putting a very compelling argument together.
Yes. Very, very compelling argument to keep him on for another 1-year contract, because he's going to be locked into 1-year contracts until they can either get Hamilton or they can get Ricciardo, which is the rumor. But
Ricciardo. Ricciardo's the rumour.
well, I know, or did Hamilton resign? I thought they were looking at him. But anyway, I had read somewhere
Yeah.
that they were looking at him. But yeah, Ricciardo's
God,
the one
it's
that they're
round
trying to
2.
lock
We're
down.
already starting silly. Bloody hell.
Well, this was from season.
Oh, God.
But the Ferraris were quick. The Mercedes were quick again.
And
as
Verstappen was
we
quick to
expected.
get into a wall.
The Red Bulls were on pace until Verstappen crashed again into a wall
Yes.
for some reason.
You know what? I think he should be demoted by Red Bull back to Toro Rosso.
No, because that would be a reward, because the Toro Rossos are good. It's not even a penalty.
Yep, and I think we've just single-handedly wrecked Red Bull Racing.
Well, more on Red Bull later, because there's 2 teams. Yeah.
Yes.
For some awful reason, that there's 2 Red Bull teams actually in name this year. Yes. Not to be confusing with the double naming of said team, Red Bull Toro Rosso.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but Verstappen crashed. He was down the order because of that result. Hamilton had a grid penalty, started 9th. And we got the green flag. And the race was pretty clean at the first turn, other than Verstappen crashing into the wing of Hamilton at the beginning.
And Verstappen, for once, actually paying the consequence for it in the form of a very, very, very punctured tyre.
Which just preempted a very horrible opening laps for, opening 2 laps, because they didn't get any more laps after that, really, for the Red Bulls. Verstappen had the puncture as a result of clipping Hamilton's front wing, and Daniel Ricciardo conked out at the end of turn 8 on lap 2. Yeah, that was not exactly covering themselves in glory this weekend. The sister team having to carry all the water for Red Bull as a whole.
Yes. And then some.
And many, many buckets of water they were lifting. Yeah, and then some. Ricciardo having the short end of the straw there. What was looking like a good run up until that point. But here we get into the good point of the race, the meat of the race, as you will, which was the battle in the midfield for 4th, 5th, and 6th between Toro Rosso Hondas and the Haas of Kevin Magnussen and the Renault of Nico Hulkenberg, which was kind of the story of the race, really, consistently.
Yeah. Damn, that was a pretty decent battle, I have to say. I don't think anyone would have expected the Red Bull Toro Rosso to come out on top, given Honda's woes over the years on what is...
I don't want to sound smug or anything, but...
You're going to?
Yes, because everyone kept saying Honda wasn't going to do well, and well, they're in 4th on pace. So, you know...
Yeah.
James Key knows how to make a good car, and they finally have a decent engine, so...
I'll tell you what, James Key is a blooming underrated designer. And where's Forza gone? Hello? So... All right, and yeah, it was an epic battle. I mean, we all know Gasly is a real talent. I mean, he came second in Super Formula last year, and that was despite having never actually really driven half the circuits as well. And, you know, really quick driver. So to think that he was able to get the Honda-powered car, which theoretically should have had a power disadvantage compared to the Ferrari-engined Haas and the Works Renault, you know, it was an incredible drive from the young Frenchman, in my opinion. And there was some other notable results as well, one of which being Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. When the driver lineup was confirmed as being Marcus Ericsson and Charles Leclerc, I think the general consensus was good for Charles Leclerc to get into Formula 1, but they're keeping Ericsson. I mean, really? But Ericsson is not a bad driver. He's practically ended the F1 careers of Felipe Nasser.
I don't know about that.
Oh my God, he's alive.
He's confident. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to handle something quite quickly. He's a competent driver, but he's had 2 seasons. This is what he's supposed to be showing at this point. Because he's had prior development. He's got to be on pace.
Yeah, but
and it kind of makes the comparison that some people are like, oh look, he's really showing up Leclerc. I'm like going, but that's kind of the point. He has experience in F1. If he was being beaten by Charles Leclerc, that would confirm he was worse as a driver.
Yeah. Yeah, but nevertheless, it was a damn good result for the Swede, 9th place and 2 very, very useful points for Sauber. And the other performance of note, albeit not for the right reasons, was Williams.
Yeah, well, what to say about Williams, really, other than...
They've somehow managed to make the car worse than it was last year in terms of lap time.
I wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that they have 2 drivers who don't know how to develop a car, perhaps? Just, you know, throwing that out there.
Well, they have a driver who's
got... is a competent guy, but he's not going to develop a car. And neither is Lance Stroll, so...
I mean, I think Sorokin has a degree in engineering, so he could have a bit of a go at developing it. And...
I don't care how much of a degree of engineering you have. If you don't have any experience driving an F1 car, you're going to be starting from scratch. they should have put Robert Kubica in, because then he would at least have some knowledge base to start from. Granted, it's
Yeah.
probably not that useful, but it's something more than nothing.
Yes. Yes. Something more than nothing. Sounds very Shakespearean.
Yeah, really garbage Shakespeare, but
Pigeon Shakespeare. About as good
yes, there you go.
Shakespeare as my German is.
Very
Because
pigeony.
meine Deutsche ist schlecht.
Yes, right.
And just watch as Penta probably tries to correct my pronunciation.
Did we mention the Ferrari pit stops that happened, or?
No, we haven't mentioned the Ferrari pit stops yet.
Okay, well, I'll mention that, because I have no idea what you were saying when I was away.
I was just waffling.
Right, okay, so you didn't mention anything important then.
No, I just mentioned that Pierre Gasly done rather well last year in Super Formula, hence why his pace is no real surprise, and just started talking about Marcus Ericsson. So it's all
okay, excellent. Well, to get into the crucial point of the race, that was the Ferrari looking like it had a solid 1-2 in the bag, in the form of Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen came in on his important pit stop to cut off one of the Mercedes, and well, unfortunately, they did a very Haas-like pit stop, except it went badly for one of the crew members. And
yeah,
that
was. I could understand why they didn't show a replay of it.
Well, they did actually from the camera.
Yeah.
On the car, which tells you all you need to know, really.
Yeah,
left their
but
tire
initially,
hitting the mechanic there.
Yeah, because in football or soccer, as it's sometimes called, there have
Just
been
call it football. We don't mind.
there have been injuries in the past where the TV company who done the main broadcast, certainly at the time, Sky Sports here in England, actually refused to show replays of it because of how bad the injury was. So yeah, it was a really nasty injury. I think it was clear straight away how bad it was. So
yeah, it was an injury to his. He had a broken leg, breaking his tibia and his fibula. And the mechanic being Francesco Segarini, as I'm told. Yeah.
Yes, Francesco. Yeah.
And he's already making a recovery, so I wish him well.
Yeah, I wish him all best and hope he makes a speedy recovery from a really not particularly pleasant injury at all.
Well, he's making his best Sebastian Bourdais impression. That's all I can say on that one.
Yes.
But yeah, the Ferrari mechanic hit there, broke his tibia and his fibula. He's doing fine now, out of the hospital, I believe, and out starting his rehabilitation.
He's
so
already walking on crutches.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
he's out he's walking on crutches now. So we'll see when he comes back, but hopefully he makes a speedy recovery, and we see him soon. But that put Kimi Raikkonen out of the podium spots. Anyway, regardless if he hadn't had that issue, because the crew only managed to change 3 of the tires from super soft to soft, and that instantly was a retirement, because you cannot have mismatched compounds out on a car.
And you can't actually be pushed backwards in the pit lane, as Nigel Mansell found out in Estoril back in the early 1990s.
Yes, which seems a bit odd to me, considering he was literally 5 feet away from the pit lane, or his pit box. But
then again, it still counts as reversing in pit lane, which is a disqualifiable offence in F1.
Yeah, that makes no sense in my mind, but okay.
Yeah,
I could see if he
Mansell
was
done
at the whole end of the opposite
Yeah.
pit lane, but literally
Yeah.
stopping in front of it doesn't make sense. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, when Mansell done it, I think it actually effectively cost him the world title in '91, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was '91 from memory.
I will leave that to your superior memory, because I don't know. But yes, continuing back to the race, that cost him a position that allowed Valtteri Bottas into position to fight for that. Not Valtteri Bottas, he was already second. My bad, because Kimi Räikkönen would have been third. That elevated Hamilton in third.
Mm.
Wrong Mercedes in the wrong spot is what I had. Yeah. Hamilton recovered from ninth to be third, and then was kind of just waiting around for Vettel to have tire troubles, which inevitably did happen, but Hamilton was too far back, and that allowed a wonderful 5-lap sprint to the finish between him and Bottas, which ended up being less than a second across the line, I think.
I
My
think it
memory
was.
serves me correctly.
I didn't see it, but I think from what I read, it was less than a second. Yeah.
Yeah, it came right down to the wire, with him getting Bottas getting DRS at the end and doing his best to catch him, but sadly just could not get around. And Vettel just has great driving there to hold onto the car with the tires that were just pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Really?
I was
Yeah.
not expecting him to do the rest of the race on that set of tires. I thought he'd have to stop at least once more.
Well, he should have, but with the safety car that was brought out,
Oh, because of Raikkonen.
was it a safety car with Raikkonen? I don't think it was.
I can't remember because not long after I turned over to watch the British Touring Car.
No, there wasn't a safety car, but all the chaos that was happening in the pits, he didn't have time to actually make a stop. So he kind of had to he had his bed made and he had to lay in it at that point. He didn't have a choice to stop because the gap down to Hamilton and Bottas was too small, so they couldn't cover him effectively. So he had to just sit there and wait it out. Which apparently Pirelli can make some good tires finally. So there's that silver lining.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah, less than 0.6 of a second, I'm told, by Pigeon.
Pigeon.
What is their name? Pigeon Ninja? Yes.
Yes, Pigeon Ninja. It's a pigeon which looks like a ninja.
Yes, thank you for describing the image there.
I'm just having a quick look for. No, there's no pigeons that resemble ninjas in my bedroom. That's good.
Well, Vettel and Scuderia Ferrari take back-to-back wins. Have also about recovering poor results in Melbourne to claim a second. Hamilton finished third after starting ninth. So Mercedes gets good points. Vettel now leads the championship. And Pierre Gasly was the star driver of the race, as far as I'm concerned, with fourth place.
It's too right.
With his Red Bull Toro Rosso Honda. So his Red Bull Honda. And Kevin Magnussen. Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask there. Kevin Magnussen scored points for Haas, tying their best result ever in F1 with fifth, and scoring 10 points after the results of Melbourne, the nightmare really, where they lost 22 points. So
I think so, yeah.
they're back in the black now, and sixth was the 27 of Nico Hülkenberg for Renault. Seventh was, in a wonderful twist of irony, seventh was Fernando Alonso in a McLaren, and Stoffel Van Dorn in another McLaren, who were handily outpaced by the Toro Rosso Hondas, which I can't get enough of that storyline. It's amazing to me.
It's quite good, I will admit.
It's quite good, yes. Just because they were so smug about the whole partnership.
Yes.
Ninth was Marcus Ericsson, like you mentioned, collecting 2 points for Alfa Romeo Sauber. And Esteban Ocon salvaging a point for Force India, which is looking dreadful at this point of the season. Already. Barely 2 races laps in. Well, it could be worse. It could be Williams.
Yeah, I was going to say you could be Williams, so yeah.
But keep in mind, Force India was a team that solidly, for the last 3 seasons, have placed 4th. Solidly. So,
yes.
Yeah, we've gone down in that regard there for them. Did you hear what Gasly said over the radio at the end of the race?
Oh, it was fighting talk, one presumes.
He was mocking what Alonso said at Melbourne and said, "Yes, now we can finally race." at the finish, which was quite good.
What a lad.
Yep.
Yes, it was very, very good from him.
Very good results overall for those guys, and Brendan Hartley was impressive as well. Had it not been for a collision with was
Perez.
it Perez? Yes, it was Perez.
Checo.
It was Perez. Without a collision with Perez, he would have actually scored points. So he would have actually had his first F1 points, and a double point scoring for Toro Rosso was not on the card, sadly, but it nearly happened. So he
Yes.
was impressive at the right time. But that is that, and that is now time to move on for next week. Actually, no, this week. In fairness, because back-to-back races, they go to Shanghai for the Heineken Chinese Grand Prix on Sunday. For us on the West Coast, Saturday night.
They could have picked a better beer sponsor, to be honest.
Money is money. Go blame Bernie Ecclestone for that. But,
Yeah, true.
yes, that is the Heineken Chinese Grand Prix this weekend, and Mercedes will probably win because they have to at this point, really. Just to keep Ferrari honest, really. There's nothing worse than a smug Ferrari team, because then they'll just inevitably implode, and yeah.
But then again,
not
Ferrari imploding is usually quite funny.
It's quite funny, but also very sad.
Yes.
But we shall move from one open wheel series to the other open wheel series, and that was the Desert Diamond Phoenix Grand Prix, from what is now known as ISM Raceway, or well, everyone will call Phoenix because that's where it is.
Yes, and also less joining it.
Yes, an ISC track that's being renamed by a corporate sponsor and also being torn up and completely remodeled like Daytona. So this coming, if IndyCar comes back next season, it will be a completely new track. Literally.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, past that point, IndyCar did their best to try and get a second groove up and running because they brought out what is known as a tire dragon prior to qualifying and practice to lay down rubber for the event, and it seemed to go pretty well. It didn't actually have that big of a groove, but it was better than it was.
I mean, then again, I think the new rule change did kind of help, given that previously with the old aero kits, they were running absolutely flat the entire way around the circuit, from memory.
Yes, flat all the way through. And running 19-second lap times, I seem to recall. Which in an IndyCar is bonkers, considering how slow that makes a NASCAR look around that track.
But then again, it's good because it makes NASCAR look rubbish.
Oh, this is true.
So it's bonkers in a good way.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the best race, but it's Phoenix, so the racing wasn't always going to be like an Indy 500 type event, but the racing was closer than it was last year, and I found it more enjoyable. And there was more of a crowd as well, so that's an improvement too.
In fairness, after last year, it couldn't get much worse, could it? I mean, hell, we nominated it as one of the worst races of the year in 2017.
That's true. Yeah, I had forgotten about that, actually.
And given that with the previous generation cars, because they were running absolutely flat chat all the time, it made it absolutely impossible to overtake unless someone could get the pace of the field.
Yeah, that's true, actually, but
this year they
racing was decent.
Yeah. This year they actually had to do something called change down a gear.
It was actually changed down several gears, otherwise you're going to be slamming into the fence if you had a very loose car, which was quite a ride from some of the people during their qualifying runs. i.e. Marco Andretti, and...
God.
Well, yeah, and quick, can I just say that Robert Wickens is amazing because his qualifying lap was just ridiculously quick, and he's an oval rookie.
Then again, he is used to that kind of high pressure, one lap, no mistakes scenario from his time in the Deutsche Tourenwagen-Meisterschaft, the DTM.
Of all
when he was
things, we
driving
can
for
actually be
Mercedes.
thankful for the DTM for once. Yeah.
Just about the only good thing the DTM has done in memory. Apart from when
Im-
Opel ran the factory Astra V8 and the Nürburgring 24 hours, like what, 15 or so ago now?
Possibly.
Volker
I don't believe-
Strychek driving them.
Uh,
I think Manuel
yeah.
Reuter may have driven it. Actually, I'm going to have to put Forza Motorsport 2 on later to have a look.
Yes, well, Rob descends into memory lane, quite literally. I'm going to drag this back on course here, but Robert Wickens and Pietro Fittipaldi were impressive in their qualifying runs. And they were both rookies, I will just point out. So, I don't know. Yeah, well, Fittipaldi has experience on an oval in fairness, so that is in his benefit. But Robert Wickens never been on an oval before qualifying. Yeah, it's just the SPM cars are impressive all the way around too, because James Hinchcliffe has been quick as well. All through the weekend, the SPM guys were impressive. I think that might be because they hired one Lena Gade, and people doubted that she would have a head for an IndyCar setup, but they were both quick at St. Pete and they're quick at Phoenix. So, yeah, I think that's firmly been established that the SPM guys are going to be a championship contender coming to the end of the year. Another quick guy was Sebastian Bourdais and his bright yellow safety tape Dale Coyne Racing car.
The health and safety approved IndyCar.
Yes, the OSHA approved Sealmaster Honda. Yes. He had a 2-lap average of 188.539 miles an hour to claim pole, which is just bonkers. And it was his 34th career pole, his last one coming at Mid-Ohio in 2014, and his first oval pole since Milwaukee in 2006. And believe it or not, this was Dale Coyne Racing's second only pole ever
After
in the
Mike
IndyCar
Conway.
series. Yeah, that's Detroit. Simply
Yep.
amazing.
I've actually managed to find a picture, said Astra. It was Manuel Reuter, Volker Strychek, Marcel Tiemann, and Timo Scheider.
Well done. Your research paying off there.
Dankeschön.
Simon Pagenaud and Will Power were second and third in their Team Penske Chevys. Robert Wickens, like I mentioned, and Pietro Fittipaldi, they were 6th and 10th, so they were quite impressive. Starting from the front row, though, Simon Pagenaud was second and Sebastian Bourdais was first, and they ran 1-2 for the first 60 laps of the race. Before pit stops happening caused a calamity in what appeared to be strangely a theme that carried over across race weekends for some reason, and that would be hitting a crew member.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh.
Did anyone get fined? Because I know Ferrari got, I think it was 50.
Ferrari got a
For-
heavy penalty for that, or not penalty, heavy fine for that, because
It's
they
50,000
had
euro.
unsafe. Well, they had unsafe releases in the practice session to go with the race, so that's why their fine was so heavy. Along with hitting someone, but in IndyCar, if you hit a crew member, you get a drive-through penalty. So both of them had that to deal with, and that instantly ruined both of their races.
Yeah. I'd say the Ferrari fine is the equivalent, is almost $62,000.
Wow, yeah, like I said, quite a substantial penalty there. Or a fine, should I say.
Rightly so.
OSHA Racing Honda would be an amazing car. Well, they have one in the Steelmaster Honda with Sebastian Bourdais.
I love the comment where it says the livery would just be documents pasted onto the car.
Where's the mail service one when you need them? Because that would be. Oh no, that's a D. That would be that's a DHL car, except it doesn't have documents on it with Ryan Hunter Ray.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get a video to show you later regarding that. Something
Oh,
sort of similar.
sure, there's some sort of similar thing in their mind. Yeah, Will Power
Yes.
led the most laps of the race with 80. For he met his match with the turn 3 wall. Or, yeah, for slightly just getting out of the line, and that took him out of the race. And that set up the final run to the flag between Joseph Newgarden, Robert Wickens, Alexander Rossi, and Ryan Hunter Ray, and James Hinchcliffe. So the top 6 was a battle, really, for the final run to the flag, and that was when the racing got really good. With Joseph Newgarden coming into the pits and putting on a fresh set of rubber compared to the old tires found on the SPM Hondas and the Rossi car. And, well, it made him look like Superman, really, running around the outside to pass everyone. Joseph Newgarden is an amazing talent, I swear. Not
Should
only
be an F1.
well, he's the American who could be an F1, but we like him in IndyCar. Well, let's not lose him. Alexander Rossi too. He's got talent as well. But no, both of them belong in IndyCar. The final 6 laps, Joseph Newgarden started 4th. He stormed around 3 cars and then had a battle with Robert Wickens for 3 laps before he finally got by him with 4 laps to go. And Wickens would hold on to 2nd in the end. And Alexander Rossi would battle back from his penalty in the pit stops to finish 3rd as well. So he gets a double podium finish for the first 2 races of the season. And Joseph Newgarden was actually he only led. He led 30 laps. Okay, so he led a couple. I thought he only led less than that. Actually, Alexander Rossi only led 1 lap. That's who I was thinking of, and that was on pit stops. But Wickens was 2 seconds back. Rossi was 3 seconds back. Scott Dixon finished 4th. Ryan Hunter Ray finished 5th. And James Hinchcliffe had another top 10 finish to start the season in 6th. And Schmidt Peterson was pleased with their results with a 2 and a 6th place finish. Ed Carpenter Racing got a 7th with Ed Carpenter. Tony Kanaan got an 8th for AJ Foyt. Graham Rahal was 9th. Simone Pagenaud was 10th. And unfortunately, outside of the amazing run from Robert Wickens, the rookies did not fare well. Because Zach Veach was 16th, Matthias Lace was 19th, and he met his match with the wall as well. Kyle Kaiser was running around. He got involved in an accident, and Pietro Fittipaldi was the first caution of the day. And in the number 19 Bill Coyne car. Oh, Ed Jones also had contact with the wall. So all the rookie class pretty much, well, was behaving like rookies, as you would expect.
Well, it's a learning year. Why?
Exactly. I expect them to hit walls and do their best to learn, and that they have. But it was a very good race at the end, and it sets things up nicely for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach this weekend as well. And expect more great things to come out of the SPM guys, because James Hinchcliffe rather, is the defending winner of that race. And I will be really interested to see how well these cars go around Long Beach.
Ooh, oh, that's gonna be fun.
And very much a throwback to the old Panos DP01s of the Champ Car World Series. Yeah,
Rest in peace.
that should be an interesting race to watch. And now we transition out of open wheel racing into, well, sports cars, really, and a brief mention of the VLN race that happened over the weekend, which was called the. If I bring it up here, it's in German. I can't read it, so I'm not going to. GMV4? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know what that is. But VLN 2 happened over the weekend, and it was won by the number 99 Royal Racing BMW M6 GT3 of Jesse Krohn and Connor Di Filippi, taking his first win as a BMW factory driver.
Hey.
So good on him. And
Oh my god.
Yes?
Breaking news within the last hour.
Okay, well, hang on. Let me finish my podium, and then you can bring that up.
Sorry.
Second was Dirk Muller, Mauro Engel, Adam Christodoulou, and Manuel Metzger in the number 14 Mercedes AMG Team Black Falcon AMG GT3. And the final podium spot going to the number 4 Falcon Motorsports Porsche 911 GT3R of Klaus Bachler and Martin Raginger. And
Ooh.
that pretty much was my summary of the VLN because I didn't see it.
Neither did I.
But what is this breaking news you mentioned?
The ESPN F1 have decided to continue commercial-free F1 and qualifying broadcasts for the rest of the 2018 season.
F1 qualifying broadcast? Was qualifying commercial free? No, it wasn't.
Well, it's going to. Well, according to ESPN F1's tweet, it is going to be commercial-free.
Well, I'll take it because the race was commercial free and I was completely shocked by it. Because I sat there keep going, oh, they've gone pretty long without going through a commercial. And then halfway through the race going, oh, they've gone almost halfway without a commercial. And then it finished and went, they weren't commercial free. How about that?
Oh god, because back when I started watching F1, it was on commercial TV. It was on ITV, and it was the 2005. It was the San Marino Grand Prix, right at the end where Schumacher was charging and catching Fernando Alonso. It's got all the Tifosi roaring him on. I think it was the last lap or midway around the penultimate lap. ITV cut to an ad break.
Oh yes, I remember that now. Yeah.
The number of complaints sent into the broadcast regulator here in the UK, Ofcom. they got a half decent bollocking for it. ITV did. But yeah, the dangers of commercial television, right there.
Well, if we're gonna be stuck with Sky Sports' commentary, I'll take commercial-free coverage. I think that's a fair trade-off. I don't really particularly like Sky commentary myself, but I'll take it if I don't have to deal with commercial.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Now we transition into Penta's favorite part of this program, which will be the Blancpain GT Sprint Cup from Zolder in Belgium.
What happened in the Blancpain GT Sprint Cup in Zolder in Belgium?
Just suck copying everything I'm saying, am I? Okay.
Okay, so.
Well, race 1 started with Dries van Thor on pole in the number 2 Belgian Auto Club Team WRT Audi, with the number 63 GRT Lamborghini starting second at the hands of Christian Engelhardt, and Alex Riberas, a holdover from Ferrari, is now in the Audi camp in the number 1 Belgian Audi Club team. Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT Audi, in 3rd. And well, Christian Engelhardt won the first race of the season with Mirko Bortolotti and Christian Engelhardt in the 63 Grass Racing Team Lamborghini Huracan GT3 in its new livery for the season, that being orange and green. There it is. Very much in the style of the Mazda 787B, minus the Argyle print. Who took the lead during the pit stops and never looked back. Yeah, the main action happened prior to the start of the race, actually, with the number 14 Emil Frey Lexus RCF GT3 going wide into the turn 1 gravel and trying to tear off the front of its nose.
I would not recommend that.
No, and that promptly put it out of contention for the rest of the race. And that was basically the start of the Lexus's career in Blancpain GT. Off on a horrible start. I said Mirko, didn't I? I apologize if I said his name wrong. I swear I said Mirko. But anyway, this is where I will set up the rest of the weekend, saying that the Pro-Am Cup was won by the number 39 TP12 Kessel Racing Ferrari 488 GT3 of PT Biram Bamkadi, or PT Biram Bakari. Yeah, I got that right.
Yeah.
And Carlo Van Dam. And the really lovely looking Ferrari there. The Silver Cup winner was the number 3 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT Audi R8 LMS of Gilles Magnus and Alessio Picariello. And the Am Cup was, of course, won by the lone Am Cup entrant of the number 15 Boots Gignon Racing Lamborghini Gallardo REX of Claude-Yves Gosselin and Pierre Filigioni. There we go. Lovely in that blue. All 3 of those sweeping their respective classes over the weekend, so I don't need to mention them again for race 2. And speaking of race 2, that was the more interesting event of the weekend because everyone decided to have penalties. Drive-through penalties for everybody. Which seems to be a pattern, really, in Blancpain races.
It's like, you get a penalty, you get a penalty, you get a penalty, everyone gets a penalty.
It did feel like that a bit at the end of the race.
Oh, dear God.
It upset the apple cart a bit, yeah. The aforementioned Mirko Bortolotti, there, I said it right this time, apologize.
Sure it's not Marco.
No, it's Mirko.
That's Marco Andretti, yeah, it's
Mirko Bortolotti. In the 63 Grass Racing Team Lamborghini. Started on pole after Robin Frins lost the pole winning time in the 17 Audi for causing a red flag during the second qualifying session. Oddly enough to do with cones that had to be recovered. More on cones later.
Oh, God. Is this track limits related by any chance?
Not track limits related, no.
Oh, thank God for that.
Will Stevens moved up to second, and Kelvin van der Linde in the 66 Attempta Racing Audi was third. And, well, speaking of Kelvin van der Linde, that was a surprise winner after all was said and done.
Oh, no. Oh, dear, this is... I get the feeling this is not going to make for pleasant listening.
Well, there were multiple lead changes and penalties for everyone. Van der Linde started in third and got by the 2 of Will Stevens in the first corner. And Mirko Bortolotti had the pace in the 63. However, when pit stops happened, all hell broke loose, and everyone did things wrong. I think you can sense where this is going.
Regrettably, yes, I can.
Grasser Racing Team lost their chance of a win when Christian Engelhardt could not do his seatbelts up under the pit stops. And so that lost him a huge chunk of time. And as a result, the 66 Attempto car was able to gap the 63 on pit stops and get around him. The leader, however, was the number 2. Was the number 2 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT machine, and Dries Van Thor took over from Will Stevens. However, he was handed a drive-through penalty when he knocked over the pit exit cones that he wasn't supposed to hit, because the cones in front of his pit box were there to force him into the fast lane. However, he disregarded that and just went straight through the cones.
I'm not sure what was more farcical, sounding this or the second of the 2 British GT rounds on the Monday.
The fact that they only ran 4 laps and still got 4 full points.
Yes. It was a little bit damp at Alton Park, to say the least.
Yeah, but that was a British GT race. They got 4 points. Moving back to the Blancpain race, the number 2 was penalty, which, to the shock of everyone, elevated the 66 Attempto Audi into the lead. And as a result, the Attempto Racing Audi RA LMS of sorry, I need to say his name.
Van der Linde and
Kelvin van der Linde and Stein Schothorst won.
Yep.
Both claiming their first Blancpain GT Series wins, and also the first win for Attempto Racing. And this was also their first weekend with Audis, so it's off to a good start for them.
yes, it's going rather well indeed for the team. I must say,
Yes,
it's
this
quite choice of car.
Well,
swap.
this also coming after their 4th place finish in race 1, which gives them the point lead overall in the Blancpain GT Series. Unfortunately, the Grasser team finished 8th after their drive-through penalty for their pit infringements. The number 2, having served their penalty for driving off the circuits, or for driving the 25 Santalok Audi off at turn 1, ended up in 12th. So that elevated the number 88 ACA ASP team Mercedes AMG of Raffaele Marciello and Michael Meadows into 2nd. And however, there was still good news for Penta, because there was a green GRT Lamborghini on the podium.
Oh, he'll be quite happy then, I reckon.
Well, he should be. It's still a podium. In the hands of the number 19 of Andrea Caldarelli and Ezequiel Perez Compang, who stormed through from starting 9th to finish 3rd. And, well, yeah, basically everyone else having problems in front of them made them drop down the leaderboard. Silver Cup, like I mentioned, went to the 3. The number 39 won Pro-Am again. As a result, from the wonderful driving of PT Biramakati, who is the Am in that car. And they swept the weekend as well. So, quite interesting opening to the Blancpain GT series so far. And in a couple of weeks' time, we will get to see the better field of 50 cars start the Endurance Cup from Monza.
The Autodromo Internazionale di Monza.
There you go. No, ADAC GT Masters is in April as well, but actually, whoever's behind the GTHub name on the on chat can inform me which is first. Is it GT Masters or Endurance Cup? Oh, okay. Never mind then. I was wrong. Forget I mentioned anything you just heard.
But what if we can't unhear it?
Well, I make you unhear it then.
That's going to be quite difficult given that we're on completely different continents.
Is it really this weekend? Okay. Oh. I didn't know that, so thank you for informing me of that. I definitely need to add that to my calendar now. Thank you very much. Where we will actually see the Callaway Corvette as opposed to PwC being in Long Beach. But more on that later. And we shall go into a bit of Blancpain news, shall we say? Or not Blancpain news. I'm getting everything wrong today. Not Blancpain. I went to say Prologue with Prologue testing for the WC and the ELMS.
Yes. It was held at Le Castellet in the south of France, Paul Ricard, as it's also known as, and Toyota were fastest, albeit with an unhomologated car.
No, in fairness, in their defense, it was only for a bit in the middle of the night because they were testing out a new intercooler, and then they went back into homologation. So all's good.
Yes, which also means that, well, their fastest lap time was not as representative as it could have been, but the pace of the privateer cars is pretty good, I'd say.
Well, this is testing, so it's indicative of absolutely nothing, really.
It's just practice.
I.e., just look at GTE times.
Yes, because the chances are the field's going to be upside down, back to front, and shuffled left to right, probably.
Because chances are Porsche is going to enjoy such a substantial gap when they come to Spa in May.
Yes. And no doubt someone will be sandbagging.
The Ferraris will be caught up by then. Because apparently they were just having a multitude of issues this past weekend in testing. Dealing with pit fires and whatnot. That was bizarre. Luckily they didn't lose the car though. I think it was a 51 who had that issue, but it came back out for pit stop practice. So it was fine. Well, relatively fine other than that.
Yeah, relatively fine. We also got to see Pastor Maldonado on track in an LMP2 car.
Refresh my memory, which LMP2 car was that?
The Dragon Speed car, I believe, with Gonzalez.
Oh, right. The Mexican flag liveried Oracle 7. Much in the style of the old RGR Sport colors.
By Morand.
Minus the Morand, because the Morand was never there.
Yeah.
The Janettas had pace. One was in bare carbon, one was in a nice shiny blue. The Rebellions, had a tie-up that's important that needs to be mentioned, and that is the news that TVR is one of their sponsors.
Well, TVR, it's a British sports car company. Hopefully, there won't be many reliability issues, rather. But then again, that was TVR of old. That was TVR of old, of course, and let's not forget, earlier in up until about 2005, I think, there were TVRs running, I believe, in the GT2 class, the old T400s.
Well, I thought it was wasn't it the Subarus, or Sabera, or whatever it was?
I think the Sabera was the one which, the Sabera was, I think, out of production by then. Because the Sabrera
I don't know TVR road cars, so you're asking the wrong person.
I was because the Sabrera was raced initially by Shorty, good old Martin Short from Roll Centre Racing, in British GT back when they ran that GT2 regulations. And then after that, when the Sobrero, I think, went out of production, they replaced it with, I think it was something that may not have been based on a Tuscan, although from memory it did have some TVR Tuscan-esque styling, but I've quite a vague memory of looking at pictures of that car.
In the DeWalt colors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was
Black
the
and yellow.
DeWalt sponsored car, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that car now. I was
Right.
like, what is he? Yeah, I know which one he's talking about. Yeah,
Yeah. Why Wiz Khalifa would approve.
please don't.
I won't go into any more detail than that.
Good. I won't allow you to elaborate on that any further.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looking pretty tasty in LMP1 at the moment. And
Actually, there
I've
is
heard-
news on the LMP1 front.
is it the fact that Bicolis might be running a second car after Le Mans this year?
A spare Enso CLMP 101 Nismo, yes.
Ooh.
Ooh, indeed.
Ooh. I've actually had a little look at the WEC website.
And
day,
your
they had
research
a
has turned up?
Last year, one of the guys who raced in the GTD class at Daytona, among others, in Mikel Grenier, the Canadian, who I think is still rated as a silver.
Well, he should
'Cause
be.
you
'Cause
are
he,
allowed-
he was racing in at Daytona and Sebring, in GTD, so he's got to be.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not the only silver. Charlie Robertson in one of the Manor TRSM Genettas is also a silver graded driver somehow.
Well, he hasn't won any championships, so other than LMP3, but that's an AM championship.
Yeah, back in the first year of LMP3 in the European Le Mans.
I'm trying to decide if the TVR Rebellions, actually no, not TVR Rebellions, the Rebellions, is that zebra print or is that tiger print that they're running on their livery?
It's just once deal, but to go to what the owner of TVR, Les Edgar, wants is for TVR to be in the GTE class at
I didn't get anything of what you just said because you cut out to me, so you're gonna have to repeat that to me. Hello?
Hello.
I think I lost Rob there.
I think I've lost Forza there.
Oh, great. Okay, I think that might be on your end, but repeat what you were saying with TVR.
Ah, yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say. From what I can figure out, I think TVR would quite like to, with their new Rose car, actually enter it in the GTE class.
Well, yes. I think the logical step would be that they make a GT3 car first, and then move into GTE.
If crikey, if TVR's history is anything to go by, then what is logic?
It would probably be easier to do GT3 because I don't see them having a car capable of being GTE prototype-esque.
The new road car, which I think is going to be called the Tuscan or something like that, is.
Well, I know the car you're talking about, but that would be very much in the style of the old Vantage with a massive diffuser shoved out underneath it, which, just doesn't work in my mind.
But we need to remember we have our good friends, technical waivers.
Well, that's true. It actually probably would be easier for them to get into GTE. All they would need to do is build one car and then boom, homologation. Because what are homologation numbers? BMW and Ford.
No. The Ford has met its homologation. It's just built out of plastic, Lego.
Still does not count in my mind. Not a real car.
For those wondering what the Ginetta lineup is, the number 6 has Ollie Rowland and Alex Brundle confirmed, and the number 5 is, I believe, Charlie Robertson, Dean Stoneman, and Leo Russell. now that he's been upgraded to a girls. And by Collis, their number 4 car here on the FAWC website features Ollie Webb, Dominic Cryhammer, Tom Dillman, Marco Bononomi, Rene Binder, and Ling. Who? Oh,
Struggling
Kang
with
Ling.
the name, are we?
No, it's just someone I haven't actually heard of.
Where's Josh when you need him? He'd know. Probably some obscure single-seater driver.
Yes, raced in Euro Formula Open in the year 2006. I
Right,
don't know, I'm just
okay.
guessing.
I don't
No,
even
that
know
won't
what
happen
they-
because he's...
Oh,
No,
you didn't
it's
even
not.
know. Never mind. I thought you sounded so genuine and sincere about it.
I was just making it up, damn it.
Misled me. Damn you, misled me.
Okay, this is making
also-
slightly
also-
less sense.
Just I noticed, looking at the pictures from the prologue, that in the ACO rules, you are no longer permitted to run, or no, you no longer have to run yellow lenses on your cars. So they
Ah.
followed IMSA's rule in that regard. So now all the lights are going to be bright white.
Yes. Yes, I've just looked on Wikipedia and Kang Ling raced in the 2015 FIA Formula 3 Championship but was dropped, according to Wikipedia, for producing very poor and embarrassing performances in a highly competitive car.
This makes sense. So now he's in a potential lineup for one of the Enso CLMP 101 Nismos.
Yes,
Because the former guy of Caterham Racing is running it. So
yes,
this checks
Colin
out.
Collies.
No, the former head of the F1
yeah.
team, other than Colin Collins.
Yes, he raced in Euro Formula Open in 2016, which explains why I've never heard of him. Go for Mucka Motorsport as well in FIA Formula 3. And if you're driving for Mucka, yeah, you're kind of expected to do well. So,
any more WEC news on your fronts?
on my front,
Because I know you have ELMS news that I've not read yet, because
yes,
I was busy reading up on
I
other things.
have actually got some WEC news, believe it or not.
Well, I'd hope so, because I just asked if you had
Yes.
some.
Jackie Chan DC Racing owner David Cheng has confirmed to Daily Sports Car that he and his team are looking to expand into LMP1 in the near future with a Chinese manufacturer.
Right, so which one is that then?
Doesn't say, although Geely would probably be the most obvious bet, given that they're
Really?
the most well-known. And well, yeah, they own Lotus these days,
Don't forget Volvo.
and Volvo as well. So
They're most well known because that's why they're running a. Actually ties in nicely because they have a Lotus Evora running in old.
Swedish GT for his Royal Prince Carl Philip, among others.
Yes, with a nice blue and Swedish flag livery on it, and
Yes.
yeah, that ties that together nicely. Could be GAC as well, but we're just speculating. I highly doubt it happened.
Yeah. Yes, and today, on Tuesday, the 10th of April, and yesterday as well,
Okay, it's going nicely already.
there has been a pre-season test for this weekend's upcoming European Le Mans Series opener at Paul Ricard, and
Wait. The ELMS races this weekend.
Yeah.
What?
and Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Oh, okay. No, I know that.
Oh, it's all happening this weekend. Yes.
Oh dear.
These test times, we're not. I'm not even going to bother mentioning the exact times because it was mainly set.
It's
in,
testing.
in
None
the
of it
rain.
matters. Yeah,
It was
and
mainly
it was
set in
raining.
the rain as well. Apart from this morning when there was a hail storm.
Well, that's even worse than rain.
It's the south of France. It should be warm this time of year.
You just said it's the south of France. It rains any time it wants. It's spring in France. Much like summer in France, it will rain randomly.
No, that's summer in the UK, mate.
Have you learned nothing from Jason Statham? It
No, but
always rains at Le Mans.
No, I have not learned from one Mr. Jason Statham. But yeah, the fastest time this afternoon was a 1:47 for Igor Orujev in the SMP Dallara P2 car. The fastest time this morning was set by Gustavo Menezes. The Adrian Vales's team topped the nighttime running with Henrique Chavez setting a 1 minute 41.
Enrique Chavez. Who is that?
Don't know, to be honest. And in session 2 yesterday, Dragon Speed was fastest with Nicolas Lapierre behind the wheel. And yeah, I've got just getting the entry list up now, as there are...
Penta's 2 favorite words.
Yes, it's quite interesting because there are, I think, a few extra WEC crews competing this weekend, I believe.
There's an addition of 4 or 5 cars, I think.
Yeah, it's a G Drive running Roman, Alex Imperatorian, and Andrea Pizzitola. But going back to when we talked about the driver ratings and dispensation in the European Le Mans series, one of the teams we mentioned was DKR Engineering and their all-silver lineup of Alex Torreira and Jean Gloreau.
Ooh, and a very lovely livery down.
Oh yes, Norma as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait, no,
Well,
that's a Michelin Le Mans Cup, not ELMS.
Yes. Well, they've added a third driver to the car.
And that would be?
Alex Torrill's brother, Miguel Torrill. And do you want to know what driver rating he is?
Would he happen to be a bronze?
No, he's a silver.
Right. Okay. So they just trade medals with each other.
No, both the Torrill brothers and Jean are silver-graded drivers, which is...
I thought he got upgraded.
No.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Which is... Yeah, they're all three of them are silvers. That really... I can see that getting changed at some point. As their temporary dispensation goes away. Yes.
Very, very interesting.
Yes. There's not really that much else on driver lineup side. Signatech Alpine have entered the car for Andre Negrao and Pierre Thirier. TDS Racing have entered their Areca 07 for Matt Vassivier, Francois Perodo, and Loic Duval. Yeah, so TDS Racing have entered their Areca 07 for Matt Vassivier, Francois Perodo, and Loic Duval. Proton competition.
I just heard you. Why are you repeating it?
Oh, sorry. But yeah, there's Proton Competition have entered another car in the GT class, and South Spirit of Race for Thomas Fleur and Francesco Castellacci. But yeah, Proton Competition ran into a couple of issues.
What would that be?
Wasn't
Wasn't that their brand new car they were supposed to give to EB Motors?
Yes, that was one of them.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yes, the 77 also crashed with in early on after just 8 laps at turn 3, 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour.
Ooh. Okay.
I think Dennis Olsen was driving at the time. He's okay, but Porsche's
that
head
car
of
was a write-off, isn't it?
yes, and but thankfully
dear.
Porsche's head of customer racing was trackside.
To witness the destruction of a brand new car they just finished building.
Yes, and also a car which he was actually listed to drive.
Oh dear.
Yes, given that Porsche's head of customer racing is, of course, Mark Lieb.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yes, and we all know that Mark Lieb is pretty damn handy behind the wheel of a Porsche.
Oh dear. So that means There were 8 brand new Porsche 911 RSRs.
One
now
of them
there
I
are
think has been
7.
totaled beyond repair. Yes, I think the EB Motors car can be fixed, but the 77 I think is beyond salvation. Although Christian Reed did suggest to Daily Sports Car that there was consideration being given to utilising the factory WEC team's second car.
I think they might be given said dispensation because, well, there's no time for another car.
I know.
That would be a
yes.
very interesting relivery car, though.
Yes. That is going to be one of the fastest rewraps I can imagine. It's also interesting that also in the European Le Mans series they're running they don't have the yellow tint on the headlights anymore as well in GTE.
I think that feeds into the comment I said earlier.
Yeah, about
said,
it.
Yellow tinted lights no longer being applied to ACO series.
Yeah. So yeah, that's not the way Proton Competition wanted to start the season. I also have a little bit of Blancpain GT Asia news.
Oh, go on then.
A couple of entries. Arrows Racing have switched from a Porsche to a Honda NSX.
That makes 10 customer cars now, possibly.
Yep. And Absolute Racing have confirmed a 3-car Audi effort.
So they've gone back to Audi after their wilderness with the Bentleys. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Shall we move on to some Super
GT news? Yes.
Yes, the best GT in the world, possibly.
It's super, that's why.
Exactly, it's Super GT, therefore it is sehr gut, ja.
It is superb.
Yes.
That would be the cheap knockoff of Super GT. It would be
What,
Superb GT.
No, that'd be a GT series made off of Skoda Superbs, mate.
And now, somewhere in Czechoslovakia, it's being done.
Czech Republic.
That was the whole point of that joke. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I did used to joke that my dad drove a Czechoslovakian car. 'Cause he did used to have one. It's a very nice car, actually, I will admit. But yes, going back to
what I was saying,
the former Japanese Grand Touring Championship.
the JGTC, yes. For the Okayama, 300 kilometers. We saw first we'll start with qualifying, i.e. the pole sitters. GT500 and overall for the race was the number 17 Keihin Honda NSX GT of Kodai Tsukakoshi and Takashi Koguri. It was Tsukakoshi's first pole since Okayama in 2011, and it was a very long time for him. And it was Keihin Real Racing's first pole since the 2014 Fuji 300 kilometer race. And in GT300, a surprise pole sitter in the form of the number 88 Manapa Lamborghini Huracan GT3 of Super GT debutante Marco Mappelli and Kazuki Hiramine.
Yes. Then again, Mappelli is quite good behind the wheel of a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Especially on the Nordschleife.
Interestingly enough, I think he's not quite a full factory Lamborghini driver, I don't think. A Squadra Corsa driver anyway. But he's a Lamborghini factory driver.
Yeah.
It was actually J-Lock's first pole since Yuhi Sekaguchi won a GT3 pole or GT300 pole at Okayama in 2010.
Oh my god!
Enough. Yeah,
wow.
That's going even farther back than the other one.
What?
And Marco Mappelli, as mentioned, scores his first pole in Super GT on debut, and he is the first driver to do so since Takashi Kobayashi in the 2010 Suzuka 1000 kilometer.
Oh crikey! I was going to say, when the last time J-Lock got a Lamborghini, pole position in 2010. Around this time back then, I would have been 12 still.
Right.
At
Okay.
the time, and I'm now 20. Puts that into
That's a bit
perspective
alarming to me, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Right. Well, you've seen the race. What did you think of it?
Oh, I thought it was a
It's
typical
Super GT. What's not to
race.
like,
It's,
really?
it's Super GT. You know it's going to be absolutely bloody awesome.
What it really is not to like, really. Well, we started with the 17 NSX GT on pole, like mentioned. And starting in 5th position was the single-handedly probably the biggest entry in the series, other than the addition of Felix Rosenqvist, in the form of Jensen Button, who was starting 5th in the 100 Raybrigg NSX GT.
Yeah, one surprise in qualifying was number 1 Keeper Tom's Lexus LC 500 and Nick Cassidy and Ryo Hirakawa starting only in 9th. I think they missed the top 8 shootout.
That could be correct, yes. I must admit I don't remember reading the top 10 shootout myself.
I thought it was only top 8 who got into the shootout for effectively the second pole.
Now you're asking me answers I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna move past that.
Yeah. Yes. It was it was a very, very good race. I mean, I think Button was, and Felix Rosenqvist as well, both highly rated drivers, but they were both fairly quiet in the in their first ever race stints in Super GT, and you know, it is understandable given that in Super GT, you not even having an F1 super license enough to say, oh yeah, you can race in this series. You actually have to have a special Super GT super license, if you will. And I think they were both being a bit cautious with traffic, whereas well, you saw Nick Cassidy's opening stint going up to blooming 2nd place from starting in 9th. So, you know, I can understand why Jensen and Felix were a little cautious, but at the same time, Button was also being quite smart as well.
Well, which I found funny because Sam Collins was berating his lack of time, I guess, or his lack of pace, but he was being conservative, just trying to hand it over to the more experienced driver. I thought he's already learned endurance racing, surely.
Yeah, Yamamoto-san, who is arguably one of, if not the top driver for Honda in Super GT.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and as a result, Button actually managed to look after the tyres well enough that the number 100 crew actually managed to gain 20 seconds in the pit stops alone simply by not having to change tyres.
Did he? Oh, that's right, he did. Yes, that's why he made that massive jump up the grid. Okay.
Yeah,
God.
because Button had done so well. I mean, I know in Super GT it's a tyre war formula, so we can't.
Well, if anything, Jensen Button's good at conserving tires because he's had to run on garbage ones the last few years of his F1
Formula
career.
One, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All he did was conserve tires in the McLaren.
In between it blowing up, obviously, but you know.
Well, yeah, you know, he got good tire life out of his dead car. Yeah.
Which actually bodes really well, especially now with the next round being the 500 kilometers at Fuji during Golden Week in Japan. I think the race is on a Friday this year, which is annoying because I'm going to have to miss it because I have class that day. 9 a.m. start.
Right. Okay.
But then
Is
again, I
that
might.
May?
Yeah, it's the Golden Week holiday in May in Japan, where they have all the bank holidays pretty much so close together. Everyone sees it as just a week-long bank holiday. And it's always tradition, I think, to have the Fuji race on May the 4th, no matter what day of the week it falls on. So I think last year it was on a Thursday.
Don't ask me. I don't know.
But this year it's on a Friday, I think the race is. So yeah, that's going to be. I think that does bode well for the Team Kunimitsu. What Jensen done in his opening stint. But also, as well, Yamamoto-san was also catching the Keihin Real Racing NSX as well, and a large chunk of bodywork ended up in the front fascia of the Keihin NSX.
I think that's a bit of an understatement, saying it got stuck in the car. It wedged itself into the front of it, and it became like a narwhal Honda NSX.
Oh God! I think it may have come off one of the Lexuses, the Lexus LC500s.
It was off one of the. I think it was actually off the orange and red one. Which one is that one?
The Zent Tsurumo.
Yes, in fact, that's what it was.
Yes, it was, because I remember the Zent Tsurumo car seeing some debris come with it.
Yeah, it was one of them collided with someone, got into a shoving match with that car, and it came off the worst end of it. And that piece of carbon got lodged in the front of the 17. So it looked like a snowplow at the end of the race, really. It was quite something.
Yeah, it really was definitely something quite awesome to watch as well. And yeah, it was just a good race in Super G. It was like you mentioned, it was the first win in ages for the Keihin Real Racing team. And
well, oddly enough that you mentioned that, the only time they had won in Super GT was back in 2010 when Kodai Sukakoshi beat out one Takashi Kogure to win that race that day. And here we are, many years later, they're teammates.
They're teammates. I mean, then again, I think they were on for a win, I think, at Suzuka a few years back before the tyre went at 130R, and massive accident in the old HSV 010.
Oh, the V10 wonderful thing that should have been a car, but that was a V10.
No, it was a V8. It was basically a Formula Nippon engine in that thing.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Which is why it sounded awesome.
Amazing, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But it wasn't a real car, yeah, fortunately.
Sadly, yes. In the GT300 class,
actually, hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Let me button up Super GT500 before you get to it. It was the number 17 Keihin Honda NSX GT for Keihin Real Racings. Like I mentioned, who won? Second was the aforementioned number 100 Team Kunimitsu Raybrig NSX GT of Naoki Yamamoto and Jensen Button. And rounding out the podium was the number 3, not number 3. Rounding out the podium in third was the number 1 Keeper Tom's Lexus LC500 of Ryo Hirakawa and Nick Cassidy. So they started off their title defense well, podium. The top Nissan was relegated down to 5th, that being the 23 Moto Alltech GTR GT500 of Sujio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli, who probably actually should have won the race had they not had a jump start penalty against them.
Yes, I think it also happened to the Kondo racing car, I believe, as well, with JP Oliveira.
Did they both get jump starts?
Yeah, both JP de Oliveira and Ronnie Quintarelli both got drive-throughs for jump start.
Okay. I don't remember that happened. Okay. So that was GT500, and in GT300 we had, well, a battle from start to finish, really. Between all sorts of bonkers things. We had the Lamborghini, the Toyota Prius was leading at one point, the mother chassis. Oh yeah, the Audi R8. As what was it? That
Before
Sam Collins called it the.
Not at all factory.
No,
I
not
think.
that one. He had
Oh no,
another
that's
name
the
for
old
it.
study BMW. The wonky sticker.
Yeah, you go. The wonky sticker Audi. That was what it was.
God dear, that was not good sticker placement there. Mr. Orange
No,
Jacket
because
was not
it,
approved.
no, Mr. Orange Jacket does not approve it. Drove me up a wall because it was not only was it crooked, it was on backward, which is just annoying.
Oh my god. I didn't realise it was on backwards, but then again it was
Yeah,
20
when
to
you
7
looked at
in
it
the
in the
morning.
pits, when you looked in the pits, they looked at it and went, "That's backwards, and it's on crooked." Oh god, it's awful all the way around.
Oh dearie me.
Yeah, well, that was a battle, but in the end, the really lovely liveried Team Up Garage Toyota 86 MC won the GT300 battle with Yuki Nakayama and Takashi Kobayashi. Oddly enough, the one I mentioned earlier, claiming victory in GT300.
Yes.
Ahead of the number 7 D Station Porsche 911 GT3R of Tomonobu Fuji and Sven Muller. So that's not at all a factory blessed Porsche then.
No, although Mueller is actually doing the full Super GT season this year, unlike last.
Like I said, not at all a factory blessed Porsche there,
Yes.
which should put it in good stead. Yeah. Anytime Mueller is behind the wheel, you know, expect great things.
Yeah, indeed.
And also rounding out the podium in GT300 was the rather lovely liveried, and I hope it stays that way for the season actually, because it's a really nice looking car.
Hell yeah.
The number 25 Hoppy 86 MC of Tsuchiya Engineering, of Takamitsu Matsui and Sho Suboi, all 3 of them on Yokohama tires.
Yes, although I think Suboi is missing one of the rounds for that team because of... I think it's the next round at Fuji he's missing because he's being promoted to the GT500 team.
Is he really? Which team is he getting promoted to?
I'm not sure, but it's because Kobayashi and Nakajima both have WEC that weekend at Spa.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Really? That's
Indeed.
That'll be interesting to see how he does.
Yes.
So,
And another driver not racing at the next round, albeit for less good reasons, is Yusaku Shibata.
yes, this was the incident that we forgot to mention earlier on, involving the poor old Bumblebee GTR. Aforementioned because it's black and it's got yellow stripes. Looks like a Bumblebee. It was the only crash, really, of massive significance that happened over the weekend, and unfortunately, he has suffered from the press release. He has suffered a
Thoracic fracture?
a thoracic compression fracture in his back.
Yeah, 8 to
There
10
we go.
weeks recovery time.
Yes, so that will put him in question for the Fuji 500 kilometers on May 4th and the Suzuka 300 kilometers on May 20th. And he's already gotten an apology from the driver who put him into the wall. That of the 34 Honda NSX GT3 of Ryo Michigami. Has apologized for doing so already. And we wish him a swift recovery. And also to put some tires possibly in front of that concrete wall, perhaps.
Yes, we did have a bit of a discussion off air about trackside safety. I will admit. Yeah.
Was not the best thing, no. And with that racing news over, would you like to do a preview of the Formula E round coming up this weekend from Rome?
Yes. It's the Rome E-Prix for the first time this weekend. I've seen a virtual lap of the circuit already. The track looks pretty good actually. I think there's going to be a few good overtaking opportunities on the circuit in Rome. And, you know, it's quite funny how Bernie Ecclestone for many years was trying to get Formula One races in London, New York, Rome, and that, and yet never managed it.
Possibly because he was asking for money.
Yes, even when he did offer to pay for a Grand Prix in London out of his own pocket, it still didn't happen.
Well, in fairness, it was Bernie Ecclestone. Would you want to deal with Bernie Ecclestone? Because I wouldn't want to deal with him.
No, but then again, I'm tall enough to just look down.
Fair enough.
Being 1.8 meters ish.
So you think it'll be a good layout then?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good layout. I'm just getting the circuit map up as we speak. It's definitely going
Always
to be
good research in advance.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting, I reckon. You know, it looks as if it also, from the video I saw, it also looks as if there's a bit of elevation change to the circuit as well, which is going to make it quite nice. So
send me that so I can see the track, because I don't know what it looks like.
Absolutely. I'm just sending it into the chat right now. And yeah, it's going to be
Okay then.
The start looks like it's going to be quite interesting, given that they're starting and going towards a hairpin.
So, like any other Formula E track then?
Maybe. But no, it's going to be, I think it's going to be quite an interesting weekend, actually. We're into the second half of the season now, and it's going to be the time where I think we're going to start to see who's going to be fighting for the championship and who we can start to discount in terms of the championship battle, I reckon.
Right, okay. Why does it look like a hand pointing? I just noticed that picture, actually. It looks like a pointing hand. Someone behind the Formula E track design office is just making tracks look like objects now.
Interesting.
Apparently.
Yes.
Anyway, that should be interesting. Also, making its debut this weekend is something that you should probably look into getting a ride in. Come your adventures in Europe covering the Formula E.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's the Audi Vision Gran Turismo.
Yes, if Penta has the link and I sent it to him, he would be so bold as to put up the Vision Gran Turismo, please.
Yes.
Because it's quite a great looking thing. Because it's basically the Audi Quattro IMSA GTO car, but livery on a steroid car of 850 horsepower and
it looks like it's got modern day center lock interpretation.
Those are indeed center lock wheels.
Of the old
with an Audi
turbo.
Yes.
Car.
It even has a Quattro written on the side of them like they did on the old 90 IMSA cars. 815 horsepower, 0 to 60, 2.5 seconds. Did I mention that this is supposed to be driven at Formula E rounds at Rome, Paris, Berlin, and Zurich.
Yes, am I right in thinking one Mr. D. Capello, Esquire, is going to be driving in Rome?
Dindo Capello and Rehal Frey will be the drivers for the car at the Formula E events, and guests and Audi customers will get to be driven around the track.
Wow. I was going to say, Kisuo has written, the car looks cool, it looks bad. It looks freaking badass.
There is more pictures of it, actually, of the rear of the car has a great diffuser on it, actually. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
It just looks awesome, that car does, and the fact it actually drives.
It's also functional. That's
the
yes.
fact it functions, yes, unlike some Vision Gran Turismo cars, namely the Chaparral springs immediately to mind.
Although I have seen it in person, it's very, very cool.
Yes, although then again, that did have one of the most bizarre propulsion systems I've ever seen a car have.
There you go. There's the rear of the car.
Yeah, that is some just general badassery going on. Looks awesome.
If you don't get a ride in one of these in this car when you're in one of the European races, I will be severely disappointed in you. Because that is just too awesome.
It looks properly cool, that car does. I'm really liking it.
That is just too badass. I love that car so much.
I know. Yeah, that is just...
It does lead us nicely into the last bit of news that we'll discuss this week, and which happens to come from a fellow Volkswagen Audi brand, and that would be the all-conquering Porsche 919, really. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, oh god, I showed my dad some of the footage of that car. I saw it as well, and I don't think I can get away with repeating what we both said upon seeing it. It was mainly expletives.
Lots of expletives, yeah.
There was a lot of swearing, I will admit. But no, it broke the circuit track record at Spa-Francorchamps set by Lewis Hamilton last year in qualifying for the Grand Prix by the best part of 0.8 of a second. 12 seconds quicker than the quickest LMP1 lap.
You know what's actually telling about that, though?
What?
The engineers behind the project, or the head engineer behind the project, even admitted that it could go faster. It's just that they're limited by what they can do in the current packaging. Meaning, this thing could have done a 136, which is what they were aiming for. But they're limited by current packaging.
There's every chance that thing could do a sub 3 minutes in its current guise at Le Mans.
Yeah, and it probably could do that with the current longer version with the chicanes put in place. It's just a bonkers thing.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, it was a cold day as well, so if it was a bit warmer, it probably would have done a 130 something.
But cold air, better power.
Yes, but it's a hybrid, so it doesn't really matter.
True. The V4.
However, that's the bit that
Yeah, the V4 in WEC trim was putting out 500-ish horsepower, but freed from all the fuel flow and
1200 and something horsepower.
Yeah, the internal combustion engine, they updated the software for the engine, but running regular race fuel. It went from 500 to 720 horsepower. The hybrid system went from 400 to 440 horsepower. There was a larger front diffuser, DRS, an even bigger rear diffuser, side skirts to provide more ground effect, an extended rear wing, which was further back from the rest of the car, better tyres. They took 39 kilograms out of the car, and it's
I
just
did mention
absolutely-
it's limited to current packaging
Yes.
restrictions. If they had all the money in the world to build a random thing based off the bones of a 919 hybrid, the thing would be like a modern day 917 with massive wheel arches and bodywork everywhere.
It's absolutely an incredible car, and Neil Yarny was behind the wheel, and he was an F1 test driver during the V10 era for Sauber.
I bet
And
he was
he
out of
just-
breath at the end of this.
He said it was the quickest car he's ever driven. Quicker than the 04 F1 cars.
Just, I love this thing so much. I love it.
It's-
It's the
it's
best
going to-
thing.
I know, and best of all, you're probably going to be seeing it
Oh,
participate
it's
at
coming to
Rennsport
Rennsport Reunion. Oh, at
Laguna
Laguna
Seca
Seca.
in December.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I
It's
may
definitely,
have to,
I need to just do that now. Yeah. Oh,
I-
man.
I might need to get tickets.
Like, you should. Seeing that thing blast around Laguna Seca.
Just seeing
is-
that thing going through the infield at Laguna Seca on the run up to the corkscrew, and then going through the corkscrew is going to be borderline terrifying.
Ah, I can't even imagine the insanity.
To give you an idea just how the engineering changes to the car, I think it was something in the region of 53% more downforce and a 360 kilometre an hour, well, as near as makes no difference, 360 kilometres an hour top speed on the Kemmel Straight. It's 360 kilometres an hour, I think, is getting on for 220 miles an hour.
How fast did you say?
359 kph,
Uh,
which is, yeah, oh crikey, it's 224 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's about IndyCar qualifying or IndyCar race speed around Indianapolis. Yeah. That is quick.
That is bonkers.
That's far.
And the car was actually producing so much downforce. They had the DRS open on the car. Yes, it had DRS. From the exit of La Source all the way to the braking zone for Lake Coombe. They had the DRS open through Eau Rouge Radion. Like,
That
I'm
is
not
just
sure.
insanity.
It's insanity, and I bloody love it. I mean, I wish they were still racing, but if you're gonna do a
It
farewell
does-
tour,
It does let
Do
your
it
mind kind of
properly.
wonder. This is with the Porsche. Can you imagine if the regs were opened up just for LMP1 hybrids? In general,
my God, that
This
would
is
be...
probably what you would have seen.
It would just be absolutely unbelievable.
I would actually accept only 4 of these running around, because then everyone would stand miles away from this catch fencing, just to see them running.
Because I've been to Silverstone every year since 2015 and seen the LMP1 hybrid, and I'm really fortunate to say that I witnessed one of the golden eras in recent
Oh,
times.
I'm
of
so
sports
I'm
car
so
racing.
jealous you've seen a hybrid LMP1.
And
Ugh.
my dad and I, it was the first year we went into 2015, and my dad and I were standing in the infield section, the new loop bit they built in 2010 for the Grand Prix and for MotoGP. And we were watching the Porsche accelerate out of the turn, and my dad said to me, "That's a bit quick. What engine's it got? What power's it making?" And of course, because it's trackside, and of course he had the old 458s back then, and the Labra Corvette as well, for that matter. The only way you could communicate trackside is through shouting and sign language. So I'm making all sorts of hand gestures at my dad and shouting at him. I'm shouting 2-litre V4, 1 turbo, 500 horsepower. I think he said something which ended in off. Afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes, and then he said, it's got more than that. And I said, oh yeah, 2 hybrid systems, at least 500 more horse.
Oh man, that is just too good.
It's just absolutely incredible. You know, and even watching the P1s go through the fast section, like through Abbey Turn 1 and through Carps, Maggots, Beckets and all complex and that, like, visually you're seeing the car go round the corner, but at the same time you can't comprehend just how fast they're going.
It's just an amazing thing. I'm so super jealous you got to see, and I did not get to see them run in North America. Just constantly kick myself for that. But hey,
they are mad.
They are mad, and I can't wait for them to be classical racing things, just in pure insanity. This being among them.
Yeah. They're mad, and they make you laugh when you talk about them because they're that mad.
They're that mad. They are still the most technologically advanced racing car on the planet. F1 is a close second, but nothing will be more advanced than an LMP1 hybrid car. Particularly when all the restrictors and chains are loosened up on it.
Yes. And then you get to watch.
It's just amazing. All right. Well, we've waxed lyrical about this enough. This is coming to Porsche Rennsport Reunion in September. An event at Brands Hatch.
Yes, there is a Porsche celebration festival event at Brands Hatch in September. Yes, the Festival of Porsche. So that's going to be...
okay, both in September then. All right. Oh no, Rennsport's in October. Sorry, my bad.
According to Daily Sports Car, Rennsport September 26th to 29th.
Oh, it is in September. Okay.
Whereas
That's right. Yes, that's right, because the October date in Laguna is the Intercontinental GT race.
Yeah, the 8 hours, I think.
Yes, Festival of Speed.
It's also going to be at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, July 12th to 15th.
A glory run.
Sadly.
Much Archer's chagrin, but probably for the best of everyone else.
Although, having said that, that would absolutely destroy Nick Heifeld's record.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you want to crap your pants while watching it, because that's just utter insanity.
It's scary enough watching Roger Clark Motorsports in Pretzer go up the hill. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
and it's also going to do a demo lap of the Nordschleifer.
Demo in huge close quotes?
Yes.
Come on, you know it's going to go for the overall record. You just know it is.
Oh dear. That is, either way, if you're going to do a farewell tour, I wish they bring it to Lamar and Silverstone as well.
Never say never, though. Never say never. I still think this will show up at Lamar.
I mean, they brought the 919 to Brands Hatch last year for some demo laps at the final round of the British Touring Car Championship.
Yeah, this will probably show up at Lamar. Do a lap or so. But yeah, that's that. ELMS this weekend.
IndyCar, IMSA. No Spirit of Daytona at IMSA because of their accident at Sebring.
Yeah, we previewed that the other week. Long Beach round is
World Challenge.
IndyCar, the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, the Probably World Challenge with GT cars and the 9 additional GTS entries, i.e. GT4 cars. IMSA with 22 cars at the prototype field, which is the DPIs and the WEC P2s, and GTLM without the addition of the Risi Ferrari. That's the sole exception, minus the Spirit Daytona Cadillac, like you mentioned. And there's a NASCAR over the weekend, of course, because there's always a NASCAR. The Formula E
is not according to racingcircuits.info.
What?
No NASCAR this weekend. I'm just having a quick...
Bristol.
Oh, no, there is. Oh, yes, of course, yes, I haven't actually added it to it yet.
Xfinity and Cup from Bristol.
Yes. There's
then, of course, there's the Formula E the Rome E-Prix, and also the Heineken Chinese Grand Prix from Shanghai.
Yes, and also round 2 of the British Superbike Championship at Brands Hatch, and round 3 of the World Superbike Championship from Motorland Aragon.
Indeed.
España.
And if there's any more that we missed, apologies, because we can't squeeze them in, because there's so much. Again.
Yes, not even liquid soap is helping squeeze this all in.
Nope. And with that, thank you for listening, and really do hope you enjoyed us waxing on about the Porsche 919 Hybrid, yes, and the glory days.
And next week on Two Blokes Reminiscing about the good old days of motorsport.
We're not even that old. Yes.
I know.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Now I'm eating well, kicking rhymes like Spartans. Yeah, give my all when performing. Put your hands up if it's your hop you're supporting. All I do is kick incredibly dope shit. Posted in the basement while sipping a potion. Suppressed all emotions so my mind stay focused. Third eye perceptions make them chakras open. One time. All I do is kick incredibly dope shit. Posted in the basement while sipping a potion. Suppressed all emotions so my mind stay focused. Third eye perceptions make them chakras open. Built from the bottom with a solid foundation. Now we up at the top and I love the elevation. Blood sweet blazing, embrace the sensation. Passing the weed like Neji with the rotation. Tired of waiting, I think that our time is now.